And we are live. What's going on, YouTube Live? It is your boy, Billy Rowe. Today is Wednesday. I'd like to welcome you to the first row. And if it is Wednesday, you should already know what that means. It's time for the Wednesday word. That's Wednesday word. Jumping straight into it. Tonight's topic is controlling manipulation. Brother Bruce, what is going on, present and accounted for? Thank you for tuning in live, brother. So as always, I like to say what I mean by my topic. So when I say the topic of controlling manipulation, what do I mean by that? Now, at first glance, you would think it means like kind of mitigating the flow of manipulation or allowing people to manipulate you in your life. But really what I'm talking about when I say controlling manipulation is the actions that we choose from time to time to actually manipulate other people, more so than the actions other people choose to manipulate us or to attempt to manipulate us with. So I guess in the big picture of things, if I was to kind of put controlling manipulation into the best analogy that I can think of off the top of my head, it would probably go in like mixed martial arts, where there's a lot of different submission holds that you can put somebody into in order to try to get them to tap out, in order to try to get them to surrender, in order to try to win their compliance. And so when I say controlling manipulation, I'm talking about those types of actions, not necessarily violent actions or physical actions, but the types of actions that we choose in and of ourselves in an attempt to manipulate others to be, comply, or do the things that we want them to do. So that's what controlling manipulation is. We're jumping in, as always, with the first row. I have 3 tools for the first row that I'm going to share with you this evening in regards to controlling manipulation. These are tools that I thought about that really came to be the top tools that I thought about when it came to my own experience in having controlling the manipulation tendencies, we're going to call them. So jumping straight into it, the very first tool that I came up with was be willing to question your intentions, ... regularly. The reason why this was like the main tool is because intentions, when we intend to do something, if we're doing something out of the kindness of our heart, or we're doing something because we want to give something, and really genuinely following that creed of giving what we want to give, then the reciprocation on the back end of that is a little less meaningful than the fact that we gave what we wanted to give. And so because of that, being willing to question your intentions, what it does is it pulls you into the light instead of the other person into the light, rather than asking yourself, does this person deserve this? Does this person warrant this? Or does this person, will this person appreciate this? Rather than asking yourself those questions, which are really centric to the person, you start asking yourself questions about your own intentions. What is the outcome, or what if the outcome isn't what you want it to be? Would you still be okay giving what you gave? What if you make this gesture, or you do this favor, or whatever it may be, and all of a sudden when the time comes and you need the exact same favor, that person's not there for you? You see that a lot in the world of, hey, can you help me move? I'm letting y'all know right now, I'm pretty much retired from helping people move, because people be trying to work me like a workhorse. So we're done with the helping of people moving. But that's why this particular tool is very important, because when you start questioning your own intentions, you start trying to figure out, you're able to more easily figure out if the actions you're choosing are really to manipulate the other person. Now, I'm not talking about, like, sometimes you may have to choose an action to psych yourself out. There's a tool that I'm currently using called the 5-second countdown. Whenever I'm at the gym and I'm working out and I'm tired and I don't want to do my next set, or I don't want to get the weight off the bar, or whatever it may be, I count down from 5 seconds. And by the time I hit 1, that weight needs to be in the air so I can get started with my workout. Now, that is an internal manipulation that I am using to push through fatigue. So I'm not talking about that type of motivation manipulation internally. However, externally, you have to be very cautious. I recommend that you're very cautious with trying to use external manipulation to get somebody to do or be something that maybe they're not either ready to be, or maybe they don't even genuinely have a desire to be, regardless of the greatness that you see in them. So that is the very first tool. And the thing about this is really the questioning your intention comes down to one of 2 things. You can question if what you're doing is manipulative, or you can question if what you're doing is following the golden rule. Treat others as you would like to be treated. Now, just because you treat somebody how you want to be treated does not mean that they are going to treat you the same. So this is why this is questioning your intentions. Are you treating them that way because you genuinely would treat yourself that way? Or are you treating them that way because you want them to be your friend, or you want them to do nice things for you, or you want them to do whatever it may be? Because that really falls, and that golden rule falls on two sides of the coin. You could mean, hey, I'm going to hold you accountable the same way I would hold myself accountable. And even if that's, and we're going to call an unrealistic expectation, it is still following the logic of the golden rule, because I would want somebody to hold me accountable to this. I would hold myself accountable to this. So therefore, I'm not going to give you anything less than I would give myself. Or on the other side, it could be, hey, I would want to somebody to give me patience and grace and understanding in this scenario. So I'm going to give you that. Now, hopefully, if we come and the tables are turned, hopefully I get grace and patience and understanding. But if you don't give me that, it doesn't matter. It's not, I'm not giving it to you right now to manipulate you into giving it to me in the future. So that is tool number one. Be willing to question your intentions regularly. And also, last thing on that tool is sometimes you don't have the luxury of questioning in foresight, meaning before an activity takes place. Sometimes, unfortunately, you're questioning in hindsight, and it's okay to question in hindsight. The important thing is that you're questioning and I almost said interrogating, but it's not interrogating. The word escapes me right now. But the important thing is that you're questioning your intentions, whether in foresight, preferably in foresight before you get to the encounter. But if not, at least in hindsight, look and see if you could have done something differently. And that nugget right there will help you in tool number 3. So keep that footnote right there. Tool number 2 is call yourself out on your BS. Like, be be willing to confront your ego. There's another way to say that. Be willing to confront your ego. But the best way to say it for me is call yourself out on your BS. Are your actions genuine? Is that really who you want to be? Or are your actions an act? And that's just who you're trying to be so that you can maneuver into the relationship, or maneuver into the friendship, or maneuver into the benefits of manipulating that person. Um, and it's very interesting, because when things are genuine, when they're natural to us, and this is whether the action is positive or negative, when they're natural to us, they flow a little less encumbered, a little less unchecked. But when we're in an acting mode, when it's lights, camera, action all the time, what happens is that becomes exhausting, and there is guaranteed going to be a day, if not many days, where you're not going to want to put on the costume, you're not going to want to put on the mask, you're not going to want to put on the front, and the real you is going to come to the surface. And all this acting work, all this BS that you've been spewing is going to basically come to a head, and you will not be able to maintain that character. And unfortunately, fortunately, I'm not even going to say unfortunately, fortunately, the manipulation that you've been trying to set up is probably going to fall apart. And so also calling yourself on your BS is really internally about communicating honestly with yourself. And it starts internally communicating honestly with yourself, being willing to challenge your ego, being willing to say, hey, look, that really hurt. That hurt my feelings, or that hurt my pride, or, that hurt my heart, or whatever it may be, whatever it hurt, or that really felt good and I like the way that made me feel, whatever it may be. It's about communicating those things to yourself openly and honestly. And it's funny because I say internally, but it's still openly and honestly with yourself. And the reason that is important is because when you're communicating, and when you practice communicating openly and honestly with yourself, that typically resonates externally when you're communicating with others. So then you're communicating, instead of from a stance of manipulation and a stance of control, I'm going to communicate like this to control this and get this particular result. You start communicating from a place of, this is what I genuinely want. This is what I am genuinely looking for from you. This is genuinely who I want to be. And if you would like to be around that person, or you would like to employ that person, or you would like to interact with that person in whatever way, then great, we have something that works. But if that's not what you want, at least I'm being a genuine person, and I don't have an act. I don't have what a couple of my friends call the representative. I don't have my representative first and foremost in front, trying to lead the way to say, yes, let me introduce you to Mr. Rowe, who's a wonderful person. I'm going to tell you all of the good things about him and none of the bad things about him, because I want you to meet him and he wants to meet you. No, it's about being open and honest, calling yourself on your BS, and then communicating openly and honestly with others. You also see this a lot in the dating world where people are not willing to call themselves on their BS, whether it's a guy who is dating a woman or dating women and attempting to manipulate, control, attempting to attempting controlling manipulation by taking out on fancy dates or fancy dinners, extravagant trips in hopes to sleep with this person. It's like you might be better off financially and time wise and a couple other things if you were just open and honest, like, hey, I really feel you, I'm digging you, I like your style, I feel like there's a connection there, these are the things I'm wanting, these are the things I am looking for from you, these are the things that I am looking for. And if that person is hopefully in a place where they are not controlling and manipulative, they can be open and honest and say, hey, that's what I'm looking for as well. Or that's not what I'm looking for. So let's save some money on, hey, what's going on? Well, let's save some money on you paying for this trip. Let's save some money on you paying for all these dates. And either we can just be friends and go Dutch because I do enjoy your company, or maybe we just don't have anything. You also see this from the stance of women sometimes when it comes to relationships that they're in, where they will utilize sex in an effort to manipulate affection and an effort to manipulate attention and love. And I'm not saying that all women, their validation is out of men, just like all men are not paying for extravagant dates because they just want to sleep with people. But some women will actually use sex. They will, what I will call, weaponize sex in order to get the attention and the affection and the validation that they may not feel within themselves. And really, that controlling manipulation, when you start calling yourself on your BS and you're like, look, I don't even really like this person like that. It took me a long time as a man to get to the place where I was like, okay, so I don't have to sleep with everybody who wants to sleep with me. Okay, great. So now that I have that, I have a place where my validation is not that my validation was in sex, but my validation is internal. So when somebody tries to combat my internal validation, that's a hard fight. Now, don't get me wrong, I can listen, I can hear, I can analyze, I can go back and question my own intentions regularly and find out if there's some tweaks that I need to make. However, when I have my own internal validation and I've been calling my own self on my BS, it's really hard for somebody else to say, hey, that's BS, and you're not even calling yourself on your BS. No, I call myself on my BS every time it comes up. So that's tool number two, calling yourself out on your BS, really taking the time to have open and honest communication internally so that you can communicate effectively externally. Tool number three, and the final tool for the Wednesday word, is change the habitual behaviors. Really, it doesn't matter if they're habitual or not, but more than likely the behaviors that cause a person to be manipulative or controlling, the behaviors that in regards to controlling manipulation, those behaviors are typically almost, if not all of them, are on autopilot. So we don't even think about them because we've done them, we've utilized them for so long as a mechanism to get what we want. We start off with manipulation very, very young in our developmental process. I mean, like infancy. You're born, you learn. If you cry, they'll give you a food. If you cry, they'll give you a diaper. If you cry, they'll pick you up and pat you on your back. And so because there's needs that need to be met and you don't have the means to communicate, you learn manipulation before you learn speech, which is scary because that means you have more time in the game practicing manipulation than you will ever have in the game of practicing speech, communication. So the reason why this tool is really important is because for me, it always is going to come down to being willing to do the work. Are you willing to do the work? Because it's one thing to identify, question the tool number one, I'm questioning my intentions. These intentions really weren't on the up and up. The second tool being, I called myself on the BS. But then the question is really, are you really going to do the work? Because if you're not really going to do the work, then it doesn't matter what you question. And it doesn't matter that you called yourself out on the BS because the habitual behavior, the behaviors are not going to change without effort. And so I actually had a friend on Facebook who had a post up, and one of the things said, like, it was something along the lines of like, if you're an adult and people are complaining about you changing, then they don't understand the purpose of being an adult. The purpose of life and the purpose of being an adult is to change, to evolve, to grow, to become smarter, to become more intelligent, to become more articulate. That is the purpose of being an adult. If other than that, you might be an adult in age, however, you are still very immature. You're still childlike in the means of which you use to communicate. Now, because I think we can all agree that if I'm hungry as an adult at 38 years old, I'm hungry. Um, Me sitting and looking at somebody and just crying and saying no words is not going to get me fed. It's not going to get me what I want. So in order to avoid that manipulative behavior, instead of whining about, oh, I sure am hungry. I used to hate when people, when I was in school, and I know hate is a strong word, but I would hate this in school when people would just be like staring at you eating. It's like, if you want some, ask for some, but don't sit here and gawk at me eat, because that is very agitating. And then I'll get to the point where I'll just throw my food away because I don't want to have it and I don't want you to have it. Sometimes I'm petty like that. Anyway, but that is really what that third tool is about. It's about intentionally making it about you. Change the habitual behaviors, because intentionally you're making it about yourself. Going back to that golden rule, it's not what I want from you. It's not what I want externally. It's what I expect of myself. I expect from a very high level growth, accountability, and surround myself with people who expect that of them as well. But if somebody who is around me doesn't expect that of themselves, it's not for me to say, well, either you're going to be accountable and grow, or we're not going to be friends. It's for me to say, hey, how long do I expect myself? How long do I expect for somebody to be patient with me about my ability to grow? And people have been very patient with me, because I'm telling you, I was a knucklehead growing up and into my young adulthood. Thank God I made it to the later years. But it becomes more intentionally about being you, and really the habitual behavior, and we see this a lot in relationships. The habitual behavior becomes about, no longer about, oh, well, I'm breaking up with you because you're not doing what I want you to do, and then you'll come back and do what I want you to do. The habitual behaviors, the change in the habitual behaviors is I'm breaking up with you because if I was doing this behavior to somebody, my expectation is that they would have given me enough grace at this point, and they have been patient enough at this point. So I'm moving on, and I'm not going to try to keep you in this limbo state where I still have a control and a say so, where, oh, I seen you out on a date, so, oh, you must not be serious about trying to make this work. When I move on, I'm moving on. It's not about manipulating you or controlling you or getting some type of tactical advantage over the situation. It's about making the best choice for me, and really controlling manipulation, having control of the actions that we choose in order to best suit us, not to manipulate others. That's what it's really about, is having the tactical advantage within yourself to make the choices that work best for you. And if it doesn't work for somebody else, that may be unfortunate for them. However, you have to look out for numero uno, yourself. So as always with the Wednesday word, I want to go over really quick the tools. Tool number one is about being willing to question your intentions regularly. Ask, who is this? Who is this person I am? Is this who I want to be? Or if you're putting on an act. The second thing is call yourself out on your BS. The second tool is call yourself out on your BS. And that's really about being exceptionally honest. When I first wrote that, I wrote brutally honest. And I really don't think we should be beating ourselves up with honesty, but I think our honesty with ourselves should be exceptional. It should be excellent. We should not have any lies that we are telling ourselves internally. So call yourself on your BS. Be exceptionally honest with yourself. So that way you can then later on be exceptionally honest with other people. And then the third tool is change the habitual behaviors. Don't simply accept who you are today, and that's who you're always going to be. It's just how I am. You should know that. Be willing to grow. Be willing to push yourself to the greatest possible version of you. That's the three tools. I hope you guys have enjoyed those. As always with the Wednesday Word, I like to share a personal story that kind of got me thinking about this particular topic, controlling manipulation. And I'm in the process on this one where I'm still working to apply it. And I will say I've gotten better at it, but I am still struggling because the inherent ego inside wants to try to manipulate. Because why? I told you, we start off with manipulation before communication. So it is a very easy tool to pick up and start using. And using effectively, not just using like, oh, I'm going to try to manipulate somebody. No, we're pretty good at manipulating effectively. So the story that I want to share is really about my eldest son, who's getting ready to go into his senior year in high school. And last year, actually for a couple of years, we've had a major like struggle and challenge with him academically. He's a super bright young man. He tests wonderfully, but he doesn't like to go to class. He doesn't like to do his work, and he likes to procrastinate to the last minute and try to pull off miracles that don't always come together in the right way. And so I was very, very fortunate to have a conversation with a friend of mine who was telling me, like, you're trying to punish him into being who you want him to be, but it's really going to come down to who he wants to be. And the manipulation part was, okay, well, I'm going to take away electronics. I'm going to take away your phone. I'm going to take away these things. And then when you start acting right, see, these are the controls of me trying to manipulate the child. And I'm not saying don't parent your children, but these are the controls that I'm trying to use to manipulate him into being who I can see him being, and who I really want him to be, so that he can take care of himself and provide for himself in the future. Um, and then once he does the actions that I want, and once he conforms and comes into compliance with what I want him to do, then I give all these things back. Well, last year we kind of reached a point where, in this conversation with my friend, she was just like, you're basically breeding this behavior. You're teaching him that you're going to use manipulation. So he is using manipulation from when I want to watch the TV or when I want to be able to go and play basketball. What I will do is what's required to be in compliance to get the benefits and the rewards. When I don't need to do those things, or I don't care about those things, I just won't do what I need to do. I'll go to play basketball instead of go to class. And the crazy thing is that took some calling myself on my BS. It took some questioning internally. But then it took a changing of the habitual behavior, because I can be very boisterous. Like, I can yell with the best of them. You do not want to be in a shouting match with me, because I'm probably going to win. I'm competitive like that. But it took some habitual behavior changes, because when I would talk to my children in the past or discipline them in the past, I would either, when they were younger, I would spank them. When they got older, it would be like lectures. And then when they got older, it would be like lectures, yelling, and everything else. It was like, I need to change that behavior for myself, because I look at when somebody approaches me and they have feedback to give me, yelling, lectures, and all that stuff, it really doesn't work. I'm going to listen to like the first 5 minutes of a lecture and grab whatever I can grab out of that first 5 minutes. And the next 55 minutes of that lecture is going to go straight over my head. Unless it's a class I signed up for, I'm not taking any notes. So I started looking at myself internally and how I could change my own habitual behaviors. And now I don't even know how many months I'm in, but I'm a couple months in where I haven't even, my son has done some things that have, like, hey, you're treading on some thin ice here, but I haven't yelled. I don't believe I've cussed. If I haven't, there's a difference between cussing and cussing at somebody. I haven't cussed at him. And I'm really to a place where I feel like, though I'm giving him rope to make the decisions and the choices that he makes, and there will be some consequences that come to that, but those consequences are not my manipulation any longer. Those consequences are natural consequences that occur when you make bad choices. So if you make a bad choice, if I go and jump off my 2-story balcony and break my leg, that was a bad choice that I made, and that's not manipulation. That's just the laws of physics. Gravity is going to work. You're 200 plus pounds. It's going to be a hard landing. And then what I'm also doing is again, not using those manipulation tactics. I'm just like, now where you could have gotten your cell phone back, or you could have gotten electronics back, or you could have got these things back. Now they're in a place where they are non-recoverable. They're not recoverable. You can no longer earn these benefits back. These benefits are gone. And regardless if you choose the right things or not, these benefits are gone. They're no longer on the table. And that may seem kind of callous. It may seem kind of mean, but my focus is I really want to be focused on my son's manhood training because he's in his last year before he turns 18 and the world starts holding him accountable as a man, not as a young man, not as a teenager, not as a child, but as a man who can sign contracts, who can make his own decisions, and can be held accountable accordingly. So though he can't get the benefits that I have back, that's not about manipulation. That is about how I would expect somebody to treat me. Granted, he's still a child and he still has a long time to mature. However, you can only burn so many bridges so frequently. You can only burn trust. You can only burn honesty and integrity with so many people so many times before there is no, okay, well, we'll try it again. And that's where we're at now, where I'm like, you can't earn these things back because you played the hokey pokey, right foot in, right foot out, right foot in, shake it all about. And now we're done with the hokey pokey. We are now into the place where you're just going to have to be accountable to make better decisions that are good for you. And the benefit is those are good decisions for you. Not that you'll get a cell phone, not that you'll have electronics and video games, but that they're good decisions for you. And hopefully that's enough. I know when you're young, it's hard for that to be enough, but hopefully that's enough. And hopefully he learns from that lesson. But I genuinely feel like I'm coming from a place where I'm not working to control him manipulatively, and I'm giving him the space to make decisions, even though my ego flares up sometimes and it's like, just slap him in the head and get him to comply because you don't want, nope, let him learn his lesson, let him make his decision, because as a man, part of his manhood training is the ability to make good, healthy decisions and to learn when you need to seek counsel, to ask for advice on making the best possible decision for yourself. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the Wednesday Word. As always, I appreciate you guys tuning in live. Brother Bruce and I can't see the name, Sio Bon. I can't remember how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry. It's been a long time since I've seen your name. But thank you guys for tuning in live. The next time you will see us live on the first row will be next Wednesday. And actually that that topic is going to be on competing. Be willing to compete. And so if you want to know what that's about, you have to tune in next Wednesday. That is August. Today is the 14th, August 21st. 2019 at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I hope to see you guys there. Thank you guys. If you like this video, share it. If you share it, like it. Happy to engage with you in the comments anytime within the first 7 days of the video being posted. Happy to conversate with you in the live chat if you're watching via live. Until the next time that I see you guys, one love, peace, and God bless.